How did you use new media technologies in the research, planning, construction, and evaluation stages? Throughout the process of the creation of my media products, I have used a wide range of Web 2 technologies which have helped to aid the production value of my work. When the internet was first established and opened to those who could afford it, the web was simply used as an information source with no way for people to truly interact besides consuming. However, after Web 2 came around, more people were able to produce their own content, becoming active prosumers. Personally, Web 2 has helped me throughout all stages of the production of my product. Most likely, the most important software we used within the time given was the Adobe Creative Suite. This is the software we use to edit all of the main products using both Photoshop and Premiere Pro. Despite it being difficult to access, due to it being so expensive and not being able to reach it at home, still seems we're theoretically working as amateur film producers. It gives us a starting point to technology used within the industry and the processes of which people go about producing films and trailers after the initial filming stage. Although the adjustment to the technology was a bit complicated, once the basics were understood, the software is relatively simple to use. This introduction to the software is invaluable to anyone going on to any sort of film, TV, or general media-related career. To be able to get anything to be able to edit in these programs, however, we needed to film the footage. Using a Canon DSLR camera, a tripod, and an SD card that fit, we were able to film at our chosen locations with a good quality to the footage. Despite it not being quite industry standard, the quality was still good for the function we were using these Canon cameras, and the exposure to these more complex cameras was invaluable. The technicalities of the camera took a while to get used to, such as setting it up to capture certain shots in good detail, setting it to adjust to low-key lighting, and so on, and may have caused difficulties a few times. For example, if areas were too light for the camera to pick up, seems this would be a typical convention of the horror genre, a light had to be used. However, the footage all turned out well, and besides a few post-production edits to either lighten or darken, or just generally make the shot look better, we were pleased with the result. The tripod was very helpful too. Several of the shots were filmed by hand despite this, the main example being the one of the main character running in the darkness to give emphasis on the rushed and panicked state of the scene. But the shots using the tripod were very clean and steady, so it offered a clear view of the image, and when the handheld shots were played, it would give more of an impact. Also, without the SD card, we would have not been able to save any of the work, and transferring the footage from the camera onto the Mac we used would have been far more difficult. To continue from the physical equipment we used, Amazon was the main place we were able to buy our costumes and props. Though the college drama department were able to supply the cape of the main protagonist, the mask, the dress, and the cardigan for the ghost character, we needed to buy ourselves. Amazon is a very helpful tool for being able to buy and compare prices of similar products, and has become one of, if not the largest online markets, with a seemingly endless supply of products, suppliers, and services. As well as this, as mentioned, the computer we used was an Apple Mac computer. Despite them being reasonably complex to get used to at first, as they are so much more different to the normal Windows setup that people are used to, these computers were better for working the Adobe Creative Suite, and being able to use a different kind of computer was eye-opening and valuable knowledge that could be implemented later in life when going forward into a creative industry. Aside from these, most of the software we were able to use were free-to-access Web 2 sites. With more and more of these sites being created and used, it has made it extremely easy for people on the platform to create and distribute their own content, changing from consumers of the original web to the prosumers most people have become through the Web 2. The most obvious platform for this sort of audience interaction from ordinary prosumers on the Web 2 would be YouTube. The extent of content on this site is enormous, with tutorials for everything anyone could think of, to video game playthroughs to makeup artists. It's free to use, and as long as you have some form of editing program, although it does offer a form of very basic editing on the site, you can easily upload your work. This has made it possible for so many more people to become prosumers, and to get their work easily accessible for those searching for similar content. Alongside this, being able to access the content on the site and being able to compare our trailer next to those created by professional film companies and producers has been very helpful and has helped us to understand what makes a good trailer and how to build interest around the content we were creating effectively. It's an invaluable tool not just to individuals but to companies releasing movie trailers, advertising products and so on. Alongside this, some of the other Web2 sites used included Prezi, Issuu, SlideShare and Flipsnack, all of which are free online publishing platforms where you can create and turn them into a presentation. The Prezi is slightly different to the others, wherein it is actually editable and you can create the presentation from the very beginning, appearing almost like an animated presentation with the way it flows from one section to another. The principles are still similar. Issuu, SlideShare and Flipsnack are all areas in which you can just upload pre-written documents to be presented nicely, either as a flipbook style document or as a presentation type document. Being able to present the work in a different way to a normal pasting of a JPEG file into the blog post not only makes your blog look more appealing but also helps to organise your presentation better. Being able to explore different ways of presenting your work is beneficial towards making your blog appear more professional, and it's easy to get the link to transfer onto your blog rather than resizing and pasting several different screenshot pages from your document. With the publishing platforms, the software I used to be able to produce the documents in the first place were mostly Microsoft Word and PowerPoint. These two are the most commonly used areas in which presentations and documents can be produced. A large majority of the work we produced for the pre-production was created on this. However, several of the more collaborative pieces, Google Docs was used. As an online platform, Google Doc is an area where you can simply use your Gmail, log in and create documents. Through the Google Drive, you can share your documents with colleagues and any person you wish, with no limit to the amount of people you can add. You can work on this anywhere, seeing as it is a browser-based platform from any device, which was very beneficial when producing documents outside of college. Many people can work on the same thing at the same time, and feedback can be easily exchanged through the chat feature or simple notes on the sections of text. Being able to collaborate in this way when working in groups on one idea is very helpful, as sharing ideas and all working towards getting one piece of the work done quicker through several people doing several things at the same time help to get the entire project flowing quicker. The services provided by the Google Docs servers were very wide too, including the space where we were able to create our questionnaire and distribute it easily to our target audience through simply sharing a web link. A large majority of our target audience are very online based, with newer generations being far more technological than previous generations, wherein they spend a lot more time accessing the content. It would be a lot more easier to simply fill in an online form that would only take a minute at most, rather than filling in a hard copy and handing it back to the owner next time they meet, as it would be much more easy for things to get lost or destroyed in the process. For some of the more detailed parts of the production, such as the fonts used on the magazine poster or the music and sound used in the trailer, there were very specific providers. Dafont is a free online resource where creators can upload their own typefaces to the site, where any person can access and use it with no charge. Using this, I was able to use a much more conventional horror font for the masthead and cover line of the magazine. Using this, I was able to use a much more conventional horror font for the masthead and cover lines of my magazine, rather than using a default sans serif and serif fonts on any other program. The font was far more graphical and generally interesting compared to these simple fonts, which may be more eye-catching to an audience when glancing over your work. The last piece of notable software we used were the sites Bensound and Freesound, which were royalty-free online areas where artists can share their music and sound files for others to use in their productions or simply to listen to. Some of the sounds we were able to use we could not have been able to produce ourselves, such as the actual soundtrack going on behind the action in the trailer. Though some of the group may have musical backgrounds, we could not have been able to produce a piece of music in such detail which required so many instruments. The benefits of using online areas like this, where there would be such a large range of documents to download, means you can find the perfect soundtrack to fit well with the action in your trailer, and you can mix and match these audio files to produce interesting effects throughout the product. Overall, there are many advantages to using Web2 technologies. Due to most of the platforms being free to use, it is helpful for those still in education to be able to access places where they can distribute their work with little to no cost, and it helps to give a head start to those wanting to go into the industry. More and more people are able to access this, and so many people are changing from consumers to prosumers of Web2 content, as it is extremely easy to get your work out there through numerous different sites dedicated to this purpose. Even though there are still several sites we use which were not free, Being able to use them in an educational environment was invaluable when going into a creative media related industry.